Welcome to Men Making a Difference, PGSAO men who inspire and motivate.
Sam, Danai, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. And I really appreciate the work that you do here at the State's Attorney's Office. So often, the constituents get to hear from me as the elected State's Attorney, but you're on the front lines, really doing hard work for our community every single day. So I wanted them to get to know you as well. So why don't you tell our viewers about your role here in the office?
Well, first and foremost, thank you very much for having me. I'm currently the Assistant Chief of Homicide here at the State's Attorney's Office in Prince George's County, and I've been in the county since 2005.
So who or what inspired you to become a prosecutor?
As with most people, I was not intelligent enough to be a doctor. So when you're not intelligent enough to be a doctor, you become a lawyer. But truthfully, the inspiration, quite frankly, is I've always kind of wanted to be involved in prosecution. It's something that's from an early age that I just exposed myself to, and I was able to kind of achieve that goal by coming to the office.
So you as Assistant Chief of Homicide, you deal with some of our most complex, difficult cases in the office, and I'm sure that can be very taxing on you. What motivates you to come to work every single day, including the weekends? Because when you I do work weekends as well. What motivates you?
It's one of those things. I think probably a story that I can tell really quickly is that I had a case maybe 5-6 years ago, and before, as the jury was deliberating, the family member came up to me and said, no matter what the jury does, you told my son's story. And I think that's really the goal, is to tell the story of people, especially when you're in homicide, you're dealing with people who've passed away and under some pretty tragic circumstances.
Sure.
Your goal is to try to get some justice for the family.
Absolutely. You mentioned not being able to be a doctor, and I think you have some doctors in the family. But what? And I don't know if that gives you a different type of perspective when you do this job. But what unique perspective do you bring? Do you think you bring to the job that you do here?
So it's unique in the sense that I've been able to kind of look at some perspectives, in the sense that I was able to also to go and do some civil work and represent on the civil end. And I've also been able to go through many of the units in the office, from district court, which is the people's court, to juvenile, to, and when you get a little bit of a taste of everything, you get a chance to see how all these different things operate. And so it's good to be able to work yourself from the ground all the way up to homicide, so you can actually appreciate where it is that you've come to.
Absolutely. So you've done a lot of great work here. Can you tell us about one of your most challenging cases?
Sure. I mean, in homicide, you get a chance to deal with some pretty difficult cases. And one of them in particular, I think, was probably the Mayhew case, where there was a gentleman who had killed his friend, and as well as another individual. He executed them. He lured them to a neighborhood and executed them. And he recruited his uncle to assist in the cover-up. The uncle was caught by the police, and the uncle was explaining what happened. And so the original killer had his own uncle killed. The tricky part was, actually the killer was in jail. So he actually had his friends go out and kill his uncle. His uncle was holding his infant child in his hands when they went to execute him, and they shot him up in front of his house.
Wow.
Quite challenging. There was a number of agencies involved, because it took a while for us to kind of peel the onions and figure out exactly what happened. But that was a rewarding case, because that was a very just dangerous group of individuals who really didn't care about the community, and we were fortunate enough to secure a conviction in that instance.
Well, yeah. First of all, congratulations on that, and so many other cases where you're able to, get at least the justice that we can provide through the court system. But I know that you, because you and I have met with families who've lost loved ones due to violence. How does that affect you personally? How does the work that you do here affect you personally?
I mean, it's tricky because
Mhm.
you know you're involved in so much sadness and despair. But
Mhm.
interesting is I tell a lot of people that for all the sadness and difficulty, you also see a lot of forgiveness. You see a lot of
Mm.
strength from very difficult times. And so I've seen family members of decedents hug the defendant, you know, and I've
Mm.
all kinds of different things where you sit there and say to yourself, how could somebody find into their heart to be able to forgive and to be able to have the strength to do what they do? And it's a pretty powerful thing. So whatever difficulties I face are significantly less than whatever I'm dealing with.
Absolutely. Nationally and locally, there's a lot of conversation going on around police reform and overall criminal justice reform. What type of challenges and opportunities do you think that these conversations present to our office and to the work that we do?
I mean, we're on the front lines of it all. So, I mean, it's one of those things where we see it on both ends. So, when
Mm-hmm.
you have a police officer who engages in misconduct, you know, it hurts us on twofold. One, we now have to go and potentially prosecute somebody who's done something wrong, which in order to help the community believe that nobody's above the law. But it also makes our job more challenging because now we have a police officer we have to put in front of the jury to say, I want you to believe in the credibility of this individual. They get painted with a bad brush. So it's tricky. It's tricky for us because on one hand, we have to uphold justice and make sure nobody's above the law. But on the other hand, whenever somebody transgresses, we get hit because it's difficult to go forward with cases. So it's a problem for us on both ends, and it's something that unfortunately is not a new problem. But I'm optimistic that because of everything that's going on, that people will actually be able to go and make some substantive change, and you've seen that, I think, in a lot of places so far.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, we're engaging here on multiple levels, looking at our criminal justice process. We're also looking, obviously, at our police training and policy reform that the county executive is working on for the Prince George's County Police Department. But of course, we have several municipal agencies and other policing agencies in our county that we also work with. So I know that our office has reached out to provide additional training and opportunities to engage for those agencies as well. So we're part of I think, improving the process. So any parting thoughts? Are there, is there any advice you would give to individuals who may be interested in the law or maybe interested in becoming prosecutors?
I mean, it's one of those things where I don't know too many professions where you have a chance to really impact the lives of people the way that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes for the better and sometimes not so much for the better. It goes both ways, but I think overall for the better.
Yes.
And I think if you really want to have a chance to impact society, and I hope that with what's going on, it encourages people more so to get involved, because it's one thing to sit on the sidelines and complain about something. It's another thing to really get involved and say, you know what, we can do something, because we have the opportunity to investigate cases, make decisions, and afford people an opportunity to potentially have a second and third chance whenever they do, make a transgression. And that's a powerful thing, because that could be the difference between somebody being able to have a door open to them down the future and potentially not. So I would encourage everybody to at least explore the possibility. It's not the most lucrative part of the profession, certainly by no means, but I think it's one of the most rewarding.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for listening. And thank you again, Assistant Chief Sam Danai, for your inspiring words and letting us get a little insight into you. So thank you again, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you for having me.